Good afternoon, everyone. I'm CA Jigneshkumar P Parikh from Ahmedabad, and in this video, we are going to discuss an important issue, and that is penalty under Section 271B mandatory? We all are geared up to complete the audit task by 30th September 2022. But what if some audits could not be completed? What if audit report could not be furnished by 30th September? Will that automatically invite penalty? Will it result into a penal consequence for sure? Are penal consequence under section 271B automatic and mandatory? We are going to discuss this issue in this shorter video with the help of certain judicial decisions, as well as the view taken by guidance note issued by ICAI. We all are aware that section 271B is clear that if there is a failure on the part of the assessee to get his books of accounts audited or to furnish the report of the audit, in that particular case, it would result into a penalty, or assessing officer may levy a penalty, and that penalty is 1.5% of gross receipt, turnover or sales, or rupees 1,50,000, whichever is less. The language itself makes it very clear that it is not mandatory, it is rather discretionary. So whenever there is a discretion, that discretion is required to be used judicially. The word used here is assessing officer may levy or may impose a penalty. Now, section 273B further says that if there is a reasonable cause, then there cannot be a penalty. Meaning thereby section 271B, which talks about levy of penalty for failure on the part of the assessee to get his books of accounts audited or to furnish the report of audit under section 44AB, this penalty will not be levied if assessee can establish that this delay is or this failure is on account of reasonable cause. Now, when can I say that there is a reasonable cause, or what do we really mean by the term reasonable cause? Because the term reasonable cause has not been defined in the Income Tax Act. I am not here taking much of your time in defining the term reasonable cause. Of course, we would be discussing what are the cases where it has been held by the courts that it is a reasonable cause for delay in submission or failure in submission of the audit report. Let's quickly go through those judicial decisions. The first one is given by the Pune ITAT, where it has been held that illness of accountant. The accountant was ill, submitted the doctor's certificate substantiating the fact that he is ill. They say that penalty cannot be imposed. Similarly, accountant's resignation. Accountant left the job suddenly without properly handing over the charge. We have got Guwahati ITAT, wherein the view has been taken that it cannot be considered, it cannot be a ground for levying a penalty. More precisely, when the accountant has left the job, it is basically a reasonable cause. Now, the strained relationship with the auditor. Once again, Bangalore ITAT comes for the rescue of the assessee, saying that when the relationship with the auditors are strained, penalty cannot be levied. It is a reasonable cause. The books of accounts got damaged due to flood, and that resulted into delayed submission of the audit report. Mumbai tribunal took the view. Now, based on this judgment, I take a view that I had my tally data, or I had my data in my software on my hard disk got crashed. I take backup 15 days a month. I had to do a rework exercise, rework for all the work that I have done for 15 days. The submission of the report got delayed because of that. Probably, yes, it has a reasonable cause. Bona fide belief about interpretation resulted into failure to submit the tax audit report is a reasonable cause. Now, this judgment is precisely on account of the construction industry. I'll come up with a separate video on that, whether audit is applicable in case of a construction industry, and when the audit is applicable, more precisely when the assessee is following percentage completion method or a project completion method. We will come up with a shorter video on this at a later point of time in a short while. But as of now, if there is a issue with respect to interpretation of the provision resulted into non-submission or delayed submission or failure of submission of audit report, this would not result into a penal consequence under section 271B, and that is a view taken by Pune ITAT. Will purchases be included for the purpose of computing turnover? Mumbai ITAT has clearly said no. For the purpose of calculating turnover, purchases is not to be counted, meaning that I have not made sales exceeding a limit prescribed under 44AB, but my purchases exceed. Would I be supposed to get the books of accounts audited? The answer to that question is no. We have got direct judgment from Mumbai ITAT on that. We have got Cuttack ITAT, which says that delay in obtaining audit report from the statutory auditor, it is a reasonable ground or it is a reasonable cause for the purpose of delay in submission of a tax auditor. The cooperative society's auditor appointed by the registrar of the cooperative society delayed submission, they delayed the submission of the audit report to the tax auditor. Accordingly, the tax audit got delayed. They said that it is a reasonable cause. Interestingly, in this judgment, they have added one more line which says that audit report was available before the AO when the assessment was done. So they said that that is also one of the reason or one of the ground why penalty cannot be levied or penalty cannot be imposed. Meaning thereby can I say I couldn't get the audit done, but more or less at the time when the assessment was to be carried out, I submitted the audit report and penalty could not be levied. It is an arguable case. Of course, we all are geared up and committed to ensure that nothing is being left out and work gets completed in time. But at the same point of time, if at all, God forbid, some audit assignment could not be completed because of the reason not attributable to us or not attributable to the client, in that particular case, we should not get panicked. This judgments would come for rescue. We have one more judgment of Bangalore ITT which says that financial crisis is also a reasonable cause. Of course, this judgment is with respect to section 271F and not with respect to 271B, but certainly it would come for our rescue. That financial crisis, auditor could not be appointed because there was a financial crisis, there was no fund, assessee didn't have money to pay the taxes, so that it resulted into a delay in filing the income tax return. Certainly, it is one of the reasonable ground on which one can say that penalty may please be dropped. We are aware that guidance note has been revised by the Honorable Institute of ICAI. Paragraph number 8.3 of the guidance note on tax audit under section 44AB of the Income Tax Act for AY 20 to 23 also defines certain situations, circumstances where it can be said that it is a reasonable cause based on the judicial ruling only. They are resignation of the tax auditor and consequential delay, bona fide interpretation of the term turnover based on expert advice, death or physical inability of the person in charge of the accounts, labor problems such as strike, lockout for a long period, loss of accounts because of fire, theft, etc. beyond the control of assessee, non-availability of accounts on account of seizure, natural calamities, etc., resignation of the accountant and his consequent non-cooperation, and official e-filing portal of the income tax department failure. Please note that when we are going to take a shelter under the clause G, make sure that we have a screenshot available to prove that the site was not functioning, because otherwise this ground may not be entertained. Of course, Gujarat High Court has indirectly taken a view that because of the site issue, there should not be a final consequences if assessee is not in a position to submit the tax audit report. But then we should have the screenshot evidencing this particular situation. So this is what we need to keep in mind. If we have a reasonable cause, there cannot be a penalty if there is a reasonable cause. Friends, it was pleasure deliberating and discussing on those interesting issues with you. If you have any doubts, queries, suggestion, please feel free to share the same in the suggestion box. It would be a pleasure dealing with them one by one to the extent I can. I would also create videos on the topic of your choice. The video will be of a shorter duration like this one. Thank you very much. Wishing you all a great time ahead. Enjoy your business season of tax audit. Wish you all a great time ahead. Wishing you all a great weekend ahead.